At this time, I'd like to call this meeting of the Belton Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. A quorum of board members is present. This meeting has been duly called, and a notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Please rise for a moment of silent prayer or meditation, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and honors to the Texas flag. Please join me in a pledge to the allegiance of the U.S. flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. Sounds like we're going to have some fun times today. We're going to just get started with a bond and construction projects update. Thank you, sir, for joining us. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. It's been a fun couple of months since I've been here last, and we'll start off with the high school project. And since it's been a while, I'm not sure. Okay, I was like,
sorry about that. I just realized I didn't turn it on for you.
Perfect. There we go. So the last month, we were looking at the project. Most of the roofing, about 75% had been completed. They had not started on the tennis courts yet, but they had all the baseball fields, all the rough infrastructure in. They were starting masonry along the area L, which is actually the left side of the screen. They had the masonry going around that side, and they're still finishing up a lot of the sheathing and the metal studs going around the rest of the facility. But in the meantime, now since last month, it has drastically changed again. And this is just to go through a couple quick aerials. We've got the first one on the top of the high school, just kind of showing you the entire site. If we look at the very top of the page, we see the football field. Beyond that, we see the tennis fields. And then in the very back, you can see, or the tennis courts are in the very back there. They have poured all of the tennis courts already, so we have all, and I'm going to get this wrong, all 10 of them out there. Which was the 2 added in the alternate. They've got the batting cage. They've got all the infrastructure at the baseball fields done. They've started putting up the baseball field outfield posts. And they kind of are going to get to a point in the next few weeks where things on the athletics portion of the facility are just going to stop till we get to the end of the project, because they're not going to want to put the turf down. They're not going to want to put the running surface on the track or any of that stuff that could get damaged over the next year. So those are just going to set, and they're basically going to wait until about the last 3 months of the project, and then they're going to kind of pick up again. So we start looking at the educational portion of the high school. Really, a lot of the impact work that's been going is on the south side that faces the elementary school. So they have been rocking and rolling with the masonry. So that building L, which is on the far side down there, they've got most of the masonry. They got the limestone. All the windows on that side of the building already have been installed. So we've got the blow-up view of the tall 2-story portion of the limestone veneer with the tall windows that span the floors. And then we kind of look at those 2 other pieces of classroom L. The bottom one is on the southeast side, and the top one is on the southwest side, just kind of giving you the perspective of all that masonry that's going on. On the one that's on the bottom there, and I'm going to point up to this screen, basically you can see that blue area. They started doing some metal panel around there, so you can kind of see where it's gone from blue to a little bit of a silver, where they've got the insulation and the metal panel going on. And around the corner, they've got about 15 feet of it already installed. Inside the building, it's miraculous the way things are sequenced out there, because you go to one side of the facility and it's like the finishes are going in. You walk to the other side of the facility and they still got metal studs going in and still don't have a rooms actually designated yet. So if we're going to look at this, the top left is they've poured the risers in the auditorium. So when you start walking in there now, it looks like an auditorium. Before, it was basically a 2-story volume. They did all the metal framing, poured all the risers in there, and they're beginning the work on the back side of that auditorium. The photo to the top right is the area between the gymnasium and the auditorium. And so they've started painting in those gymnasiums, getting all the finished paints done, and painting down some of the hallway. Actually, in this photo, if you see the guy that is in the scissor lift there, he's actually spraying the columns with intumescent paint, which is a fireproofing paint. And so once they do that, they're going to come back and start painting that wall, the CMU wall, with their finishes. The bottom left is probably my favorite space in the high school right now. It's the overlooking the commons, that two-story commons with this great view of glass looking out towards the athletic fields, your dining commons. Just being able to walk around that and see everything, it's going to be very impactful once it's finished and you all get to visit that portion. And then the bottom right side is just kind of looking at, as I said, things are progressing so drastically on different sides of the building that they've already got the finished tile going in the bathroom. So they've got ceramic tile on the first and second floor in building L, and they're beginning to kind of move forward up that south side to the north side of the education wing. Kind of looking back over to the athletics, the last major piece that they had to put in at the football field is actually this wall here that has the brick, and then they put all these limestone blocks in. They're 2 by 2 by, I think, 4 feet long, and there are quite a lot of those that they've put, and I think it's going to be interesting once the facility opens up, because I think it's going to be a great place where people are going to want to sit and mingle around, so it'll be an interesting piece to watch kids and students go through there. We've got the high jump in the bottom left side that's been already poured with the pit. As I said, the tennis courts have all the fence posts going around. As soon as that's cured out, they'll start getting that done. And then just looking at the baseball field, I think a while back we kind of showed some other photos, but now they actually have the concrete mound that they're going to have the turf going over. Are there any questions on the high school?
What percentage would you say now we're at?
So I want to say they're somewhere around 65%. Because a lot of the infrastructure on the civil and all that structures, front loads the project, so that bell curve hits and then it starts tapering off. So we're, with 12 months left, I'm really surprised. The first, I can't even remember how many months it's been. Honestly, I feel like I've only been here a few months, and that at this point we're past 50% on the project. So.
Yeah, Jared reported to us today we were about 57%, so not quite 65, but moving. It's moving.
It is moving fast.
Thank you.
So the next project to talk about is one that you guys, it went out as a competitive bid. You guys got to review it and approve it. And I want to say, the contractor got a signed contract on Friday, and they were on site on Monday, and they were rocking and rolling. And so I don't have a lot of shots, but I've got action shots this time. So we have the front canopy coming down. Basically, they came in, got all the sidewalks demoed out, got that front canopy down so that they can start that orchestra addition, adding the new orchestra. We've got the sectional practice area. I believe it's 2 other practice areas and a renovation of the offices between the band and the orchestra hall. And this project, they are going to be kind of shifting focus. Instead of working on the building site, they're actually going to be going over and working on the main road to get that all done before school starts so that there's no impact, and then going back over to the building pad and working on that phase. And this project, that is it right now. Is there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item on our agenda is a budget update by Ms. Jennifer Lynn. Good evening.
Hello. Good evening, board members, Dr. Kincannon. I'm here in front of you to provide a brief budget update. I don't have much to present, but I definitely want to take this opportunity to tell you about a few changes in the projections since the budget update last month. I always like to start out with a reminder that we are developing and creating this budget with the priority of making sure that our students are at the forefront and that their academic support is what's driving the budget. And I wanted to make sure that you feel comfortable with the budget and that it can fully support what Mr. Schiller is going to be presenting to you all in just a few minutes. I will provide a lot more detail at our budget workshop that we have scheduled on July 29th. But I wanted to take a look at the personnel expenditures again on the M&O side, because we did have a couple of updates, or a few updates in our personnel projections. As you can see, the total personnel budget right now is at $90,400,000. That's $400,000 more than we estimated last month. That comes from an addition of $200,000 to new positions, $150,000 to projected salary increases, and because those two categories increased, we increased benefits by about $50,000 as well. These changes are still well within our categorical amount that we are anticipating expending on our personnel, and our personnel budget would still be about the 81% that we talked about last month. Again, these amounts are subject to change because each day we are getting more information. TEA is clarifying information. So just understand that these amounts will change also, because as we refine our budget, we get more accurate information. All of our staff is being hired, and we're basing these projections on current figures. So as they change, these numbers change. With the small additions to the salary projection, we are now at about $1,050,000 above what House Bill 3 required us to spend in salary increases. We were originally at about $900,000. So again, these amounts will change. You're going to get tired of hearing me say that over the next few months, but we are still working with information that is relatively new and is being clarified and refined each day. When we are still projecting about $117,500,000 in revenue, and even with that additional $400,000 that we have increased the payroll costs by, we do still anticipate a nice contingency budget of still over $6 million. And that number, of course, will change as we identify additional needs for the 19-20 fiscal year, and also as you as a board may decide to offset some costs of associated growth in the new schools. Again, the number will change, and we're just working to make sure that we can get as accurate numbers as we can when we adopt the budget. But we anticipate having to refine the budget even after adoption even further. So again, I'll be back in front of you at the budget workshop on the 29th. And because we are anxiously awaiting our tax values from Bell County, we will continue to work up until that time to improve our budget projections. And then in August, I will stand in front of you and ask you to adopt a budget and set a tax rate. Do you have any questions for me?
Don't believe so.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have Mr. Todd come and talk to us about the 2019-2020 compensation plan.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
So in May, I was up here and we discussed our annual compensation survey and we reviewed our health insurance contributions. As you know, the talk since then has been about House Bill 3 and the passage of that. We've been learning all we can about House Bill 3 to develop a compensation plan for this upcoming school year. Tonight, we have that plan for your consideration. This plan complies with House Bill 3 requirements to differentiate compensation to teachers with more than 5 years of experience. It complies with House Bill 3 requirements to spend 30% of the revenue increases on compensation, with 75% or $2,850,000 on teachers, nurses, librarians, and counselors, and the remaining 25% or $950,000 going to non-administrative staff. The total cost of the plan that's going to be presented here tonight is $4,838,417, which is over $1 million more than the House Bill 3 requirement, and it also provides a health plan contribution increase from $375 to $400 a month. have in front of you in your packet today the teacher salary schedule that is being proposed. The teacher salary schedule increases the beginning teacher salary up $2,900 from $47,300 to $50,200. You'll see increases ranging from $3,200 to $5,190 depending on their years of experience there. Again, House Bill 3 requirements required us to differentiate compensation from 0 to more years of experience. So you'll see that as you go up the scale, the higher the salary increase. And so it does comply with the House Bill 3 requirements. I'll also mention that about 71% of our staff fall between 0 and 14 years of experience. So when you're looking at that schedule, that's where you'll see the majority of our staff, 71% receiving increases associated with that scale for those amounts. The schedule creates a percentage increase for teachers, nurses, librarians, and counselors, ranging from 5.8% to 9.5% for those receiving the $5,100, with an average increase of 6.5%. Counselors, which are on a different pay schedule than our teachers, nurses, librarians, and counselors, would receive a 4% increase. 4% increase, and then we also have some additional adjustments for those in order to maintain existing salary structures and difference between compensation to make sure that teacher schedule doesn't supersede the counselor schedule because they're on that higher pay schedule. And the counselors do, again, count towards the 75% increase that is required from House Bill 3. Other professionals would receive a 4% increase based on the midpoint with some adjustments to maintain equity between salary schedules again. And those would be individuals like your LSSP, DIAGs, assistant principals, and so on. Throughout this year's lengthy planning process, we determined, y'all heard me say this in May, throughout this year's lengthy planning process, we determined that salary increases for paraprofessional and educational aides should also be a priority for the district. The employees play an important role in meeting the needs of our students. So I'm happy to report tonight a recommendation for paraprofessional and auxiliary staff would receive a 6% increase of their associated midpoint, increasing the hourly rates for educational aides from to $10.38 per hour. Minimum hourly rate for entry-level auxiliary positions, which would include your custodians, your crossing guards, bus monitors, school nutrition workers, would increase to $9.75 per hour. I'm so excited about those recommendations. As stated in May, substitutes have been difficult for us as well. It's been a difficult challenge attracting and retaining those individuals, and a lot of that is largely due to the unemployment rate and the economy. So I'm happy to report tonight we're looking at increasing substitute rates from $70 to $75 for non-degreed substitutes, $80 to $85 for degreed substitutes, and $85 to $100 for certified substitutes. In addition, we're also looking into implementing an incentive for substitutes who work 70% of the semester, and that incentive would be $500 per each substitute, payable in December and then in May as well. So excited about that. Salary schedules are in the packet for your consideration and review tonight. Covers all of our positions there. Finally, I'd like to add that a lot of thought, discussions, and consideration has gone into the development of this plan, and we're excited to bring this plan to you tonight for consideration. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding the proposed increases.
Does the board have any questions? I do have a comment. I want to thank you, Todd, and Ms. Jennifer Land and Dr. Mueller and all the rest of the staff that put forth any efforts toward studying this House Bill 3 and all the minutiae that's connected with it, trying to figure out where we need to land. Y'all have done a tremendous job, and we thank you for that. Y'all have helped us understand it a lot better. I just want to also say thank you to Dr. Kincannon for your outstanding management and leadership style, and just being so diligent in ensuring that we're always making sure we don't miss the mark on anything. So I appreciate you for that. And I would say to our teachers and our paraprofessionals that you're one of the reasons that we're so successful here at BISD, and we're so grateful for y'all. So anybody else would like to say anything?
Do you mind if
Absolutely.
I say something? I just want to say thank you to our employees this evening. I know you guys haven't taken action yet, and I don't want to get ahead of you. But I want to thank you for your patience, and thank the board for their patience as well. We typically approve our salaries in June, and with House Bill 3, it has just taken a little bit bit longer to work through the process to make sure we fully understand and get it right, so we don't have to come back and redo any recommendation to the board. So I'm thankful to Todd and Jennifer and Dr. Muller for their work. They did extensive studying, working with our professional organizations and following closely across the state what's happened with compensation plans in House Bill 3. They did an outstanding job, and to be able to recommend this plan that feels good after much work, especially on Todd's part in trying to come up with the right design for our salary structure. So just thankful for everyone for their patience.
Thank you. We're not going to take any action at this point, but we will come back later on. At this point, we are going to go into closed session. It's 5:21 to discuss personnel, Texas Government Code chapters and subchapters D and E, Texas Government Code section 551.074, superintendent's salary. Okay, it is 5:56, and we will reconvene in open session here. Elizabeth, we have some recognitions that started in a few moments. Are we about, okay, awesome. So let's get it started, Josh.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Belton High School class of 2019 graduate Peter Morris earned a national silver medal in the Principles of Engineering Technology event at the 2019 Skills USA National Student Leadership Conference held last month in Louisville, Kentucky. Described by Skills USA as an evaluation of a competitor's understanding of basic technical concepts, principles of the applied sciences, and ability to demonstrate and explain the concept, principle in action and application, this Principles of Engineering Technology second place finish at Nationals is a first for BHS and Belton Career and Technical Education. Peter's Skills USA sponsor is Pietro Giustino. Congratulations, Peter.
Congratulations, Peter.
I want to say something about Peter. Peter went to Skills USA state competition last year and studied. He paid attention and watched the students who were participating, came back and won the state competition this year, and to pay attention and study, win a state competition, and get second place at nationals is a really big deal. Congratulations, Peter.
Congratulations.
Each year, Project Apple Tree supports hundreds of students in Belton ISD. For families who qualify, the project provides each child with important supplies and encouragement as they begin a new school year. Jeanette Kelly, a former school board member and elementary school principal in Belton ISD, started Project Apple Tree 19 years ago with the goal of ensuring that all students, no matter their economic circumstances, have a great first day of school. Now, Helping Hands Ministry and a strong team of volunteers are continuing this important community effort to support our students and families. Tonight we have Marilyn Douthit, who will tell us a little bit more about their work.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you. On behalf of Project Apple Tree's umbrella organization, Helping Hands, and my fellow volunteers, I'd like to thank the board for allowing me to speak tonight and for recognizing Project Apple Tree. In spite of what the screen says, we did a recount, and this is actually the 20th year of Project Apple Tree. Our mission is to help the economically challenged children of BISD start school equipped and encouraged. And our success and longevity is largely attributed to the cooperation and support that we have received from BISD. From teachers and campus coordinators to the transportation department to the administration, your generous donations and involvement have been vital and most appreciated. I'll also take a moment to thank you all for allowing us to make apples available in the lobby tonight, and a heartfelt thank you goes to all of those who have taken some of those apples or who will take them at the end of the program. Registration of qualifying families began in April at Helping Hands and has just concluded. A special number is assigned to each apple, and by apple, I don't mean edible. I mean a little piece of paper, either red or yellow. These are assigned to each child pre-K through high school for identification purposes and for shopping. The culmination of our work will be August 12th, which is Distribution Day, when hundreds of community volunteers distribute a gym full of boxes to eagerly awaiting families at First Baptist Church. Belton is a very caring community, and nowhere is this more evident than in Project Apple Tree, where individuals, schools, churches, businesses, and other organizations come together to provide the foundation for success for our young recipients. There are many items as simple as a toothbrush that can make the difference in the self-esteem of a child. My favorite apple tree story, which I'll tell very quickly, is that of a child who on distribution day was madly rifling through their brand new bag of school supplies and of clothing, and surprisingly pulled out the toothbrush and said, "Look, Mom, now I don't have to use yours anymore." Yes, that and many other reasons are why we do what we do. It is our mission to tangibly show God's love to each and every child. Every bag of school supplies or clothing are checked and double-checked because that bag represents a child to us, and it's a child who is counting on our getting it exactly right. We are most grateful to UMHB, who through the years has provided a comfortable place for us to package the thousands of items that are involved. And this year, we are in a new location at 207 11th Street on the UMHB campus just off Main. And we would invite any of you all to come by, see what we do, or better yet, come to First Baptist Church on August the 12th for Distribution Day. It will amaze you and bless you. Thank you.
Marilyn, before you go, I just want to say thank you for all that you do. It's so near and dear to all of us. You know, people assume that when children go to school that they're just focused on the learning. They can't focus on learning if they don't have the very basic necessities. Something as simple as a toothbrush, something as simple as a backpack, having those tools, particularly on the first day, it's so meaningful. So thank you for all that you all do.
Thank you.
Well, from celebrating a classroom teacher each quarter to awarding scholarships to graduating seniors, the Belton Rotary Club's support of Belton ISD staff and students includes long-standing traditions that recognize and support achievement. In addition, Belton Rotarians have established an important practice of providing all of the district's new campuses with the funds necessary to purchase and install a flagpole. Just as campus flagpoles, like the one installed at Charter Oak Elementary this summer, serve as a centerpiece for a campus's landscape, the continued partnership and support Belton ISD receives from the Belton Rotary Club and its members is essential to the district's success. For their significant contributions, Belton Rotary Club is the Big Red Community Partner for JuLY. Accepting tonight's award is President Trevor Smith. Congratulations. And that'll do it for this evening's recognitions. Thank you.
You haven't picked up your apples, there's some in the back. Support Project Apple Tree. Okay, next item on our agenda is public comments. Connie, do we have anybody that signed up? Nope. Okay, next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Does any board member, any member of the board wish to have any item pulled for discussion? No? Is there a motion to approve as displayed? Okay, thank you, Mr. Taggart. Is there a second? Mr. Fleur, all in favor, please raise your hand. That passes unanimously. And we'll move on to our next item. Superintendent's report.
Okay, I had proposed budget workshop on listed for me. You guys know about that, but I wanted to make sure we had a reminder that will be 5:00 p.m. on July 29th, and at this time, that's the only item on the agenda. So if that changes, I will let you know. Wanted to talk a little bit about the district's theme as we approach a new school year. We have a new theme this year that builds on the theme that we started last year. And this year it is Design, Create, and Build. And just a little background information about the theme. This is inspired by some beautiful stained glass windows at Miller Heights Baptist Church that I saw this spring while attending the funeral of the husband of one of our longtime secretaries in the district. And as I was sitting there at the funeral, thinking about work too while I'm there as well, but just feeling very reverent in the church and in the beauty of those stained glass windows, and inspired that what we do is so special, and what happens with children is so special. And so we have used that as our theme to continue to do the work that we've been doing, but building on it for this next school year. And so when we present the district improvement plan next month, you'll see how we've built on the initiatives that we have started over the last couple of years to continue the work for our kids, for our masterpiece, for our beautiful graduate. And so when students come in to us, they come in with all of their unique needs, with all of their special talents, with their deficits or their strengths. And we get them as far as we can take them when they graduate. And as a team, we want to stay focused on students. And we want to take them as far as we can take them. And we love them. And they are the most precious thing to us. And so as we begin our school year, we want to focus on our kids. And we have a lot of work to accomplish. You'll see that next month. But it is about them and what we're trying to create and build for them. And so I wanted to introduce that to you this evening. Next week, we'll take our administrators to UMHB, to the Baugh Center for Visual Arts, and the Fine Arts Department Chair, Herschel Sills, and Dr. Faust, the Dean of the College of Visual and Performing Arts, are graciously hosting our team to talk about art. And we reached out to them to see if they could talk to us about skills and the skills that you need and how you refine your skills as an artist over time to create something so beautiful. And so they will be hosting us. We'll be discussing our priorities and our goals for the year, and spending a little time together team building as we begin a new school year. So we're super excited about it, and I wanted you to have a glimpse of that beautiful graduate and know about our theme. We'll continue to talk about it at convocation as we approach the beginning of the school year. So.
It's a beautiful theme. It looks like learning is fun. It looks like learning is unique, and I'm really excited to see where we go with this.
Yeah,
this
thanks.
looks amazing.
Yeah, appreciate
Awesome.
that. Thank you.
Indeed.
Okay, and then my last item is just to talk a little bit about back-to-school activities. Sue has a list of items and calendar of events to share with you at the end of the meeting, but I wanted to talk a little bit about open house and give you the information that you need, and you've been provided that in a flyer. But school's 5 weeks away, if you can imagine, and our new teachers will be here on August the 1st, and August the 1st is always when you start to see a little bit of a buzz, maybe even just prior to that around the high school campuses. Students come back for summer band and volleyball, and so it's coming quickly. You have been given some calendar invitations for some events like new teacher orientation, which is different this year. We'll be hosting a breakfast at our new elementary school, Charter Oak Elementary. And that will be August 1st. And then after school starts, we'll have our Meet the Teacher nights, August 14th and 15th at our elementary schools, September 5th at the middle school level, and then September the 10th for both of our high schools. And we'll be pushing this information out to the public. It's now on the website for Belton ISD, and we'll tweet that out and communicate that out in a number of ways. But we wanted you to have it because by the time our next meeting rolls around, it will be our next regular meeting rolls around, it will be the first day of school. Yeah, coming quickly.
Any
That's it.
questions, comments about that? Okay, thank you. Next item on our agenda is the report on and discuss Belton Educational Enrichment Foundation. How are you, Ms. Tessrod? How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
My name's Alan Testro. Most of you, I think, know me, and I'm the president of the Belton Educational Enrichment Foundation. I'm going to learn how to click this myself, I think. We were founded in 1992. Susan reminded our executive committee back then our main objectives was scholarships. Since then, we've done a lot, which I'll expand on as we go through the presentation. But mainly, people know us for scholarship and teacher grants. We love that prize day, ringing the bell. Randy, since he's retired from us, I think it's a little quieter, I think. We have 30 board members. We're a volunteer board. We all work very tirelessly to keep everything going, and we have over $1.4 million in assets. Most of those are donations from donors that are endowed for scholarships. This is our board of directors. I am not going to read every name, but you can see it's an extensive list. I counted that 30. Janet Lee is on our board, and Dr. Kincannon, and they work too. I don't know my month, so I need to go back to school, but we start in March and April with a golf and tennis tournament. Tennis is my passion, so I'm trying to convince people to join that. We were completely full this year, and about 15 of my friends were not here, so you better register early if you're interested. We have the golf tournament, we have scholarships in May, and then when school starts, we start our employee campaign. Red carpet this year is going to be really, really fun. We're going to do a casino night. It's going to be very different. It's still at Tin Rock, but it's going to be fun. And then in December, we do the teacher and the paraprofessional grants. So these are just some pictures of our prize patrol. We did give out $54,000 in teacher grants and $6,000 in paraprofessional scholarships. Love the children. These pictures are so much fun. We gave out over $227,000 in scholarships this year, and this first slide is Belton High School. Gave out over $180,000 with 133 scholarships. This is New Tech, and we gave out over 40 and about 32 scholarships. This is our tennis tournament, like I said. These 3 students at the top came and helped me. We have unbelievable between the parents and the schools. So impressive. You might notice one of the school employees down there. See, somebody will play tennis with me. This is a golf tournament. If you notice Janet Lee in that middle bottom, it was very, very cold. But everybody came and everybody played. We raised over $35,000. Just recently, the VFW 4008 gave us a $25,000 donation. This is the second one they've given us. The first one went to Belton High School graduates. This one's going to a New Tech graduate. Then we had a sad year in memory of 3 of our great supporters. Joe Pirtle, he was actually founder of Beef. We lost Bill Ward and Billy Wilbanks. And so tremendous loss, but we do want to keep them. There's scholarships and things, grants that just continue in their legacy. Another thing we did this year is we gave $10,000 towards dual credit. That's for lower income kids can apply through the counselors, and it will help them take dual credit classes. We also set up a Network for Good. It's a donor management system. We're trying to do a little bit more online. You might notice that with events. We had a strategic planning meeting, and it was really, really good. Susan gave us a lot of her time. We had a lot of discussion. The one thing we're trying to do with our mission is tweak it, and we're just trying to tweak it a little bit more parallel to the same initiatives of the school system. And so we're still working on that. It will involve redesigning the logo, and I keep looking at your beautiful logo, and it's not an easy process. We also hope maybe to redesign a website, and maybe right now we're part of the BISD.net, but maybe have our standalone website. And we're also considering the possibility of a part-time executive director. Like I said, we all work really, really hard, but there's a few things that we could probably do just a little bit better. But I will tell you, in our research, we researched about 10 communities around here, and we by far shine compared to them. Andy called me today. He had talked to Colleen, and they're just wowed by what we do in scholarships. I don't know if there was even a school that gave over 100,000, and we gave out 227, so it's amazing. Anyway, great things are going on in Beef. We love all your support. I'm thankful for every one of you when you come to events. It's just a great organization. Any questions?
Is there a date for the red carpet event?
There is, thank you. Thursday, October 10th. It's Thursday night.
Who's going to cater this year?
Pignetti's.
All right.
I want to say, if you know Alan Tester, you know that she is a fundraiser extraordinaire, and we are incredibly fortunate to have her at the helm of Beef right now. She does amazing work. She's a visionary. She's always thinking through every detail. Nothing gets past her. And you shouldn't be afraid if she calls you to ask for money, because she's really nice.
I tell everybody, all people can tell you is no.
But she will call you.
Yes.
But Alan, thank you so much for what you do and all the hours and time and effort and thought and care you put into making this successful.
Thank you.
And I just want to also thank Beef for all the things that they do for BISD. You all make dreams come true. It's like an episode of Publishers Clearinghouse. You hear that, the bells and all the noise, and it's so exciting. I've been able in the past to go and look forward to going in the future. So thank you so much for that.
In some of our strategic planning, you're going to see some tweaking and maybe some really great, and nothing's going to be tremendously different, but you're going to see some good things come out of it.
Well, thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda, we're going to consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding the employment of administrative employees. Mr. Schiller is going to talk to us about that.
Thank you. We have 3 recommendations for your approval tonight for administrators. The first one, I'm going to call your name and have you come up here to the front. First one being Dr. Becky Musil. Go stand right up there. Then Dr. Musil has a Doctorate of Education from Educational Leadership from University of Mary Hardin Baylor, and a Master's of Education, Counseling and Psychology from UMHB. I'll let Dr. Musil kind of be the show person. She can show everybody else how it's done.
We only asked you to do that because we're going to take your picture.
That's right.
You're not at the principal's office. You're fine.
Bachelor's of Arts degree in English from Texas Tech University, 28 years in education, number of years, worked here 3 years at Belton ISD as a teacher as well, and comes to us from Odessa College where she's been commuting a little bit back and forth. So we're excited about her and look forward to working with her as Lakewood Elementary principal.
Awesome. Well, we're excited you're here. We're excited for all the things that you're going to bring to make us better. Awesome.
I want to say we're honored to recommend Becky to you this evening. Becky, having been a teacher in Belton ISD, has a really great reputation of success and is very well loved by our students, our top students. She pushed to higher levels of achievement, and we're pleased that she's willing to take this position and lead Lakewood. Thank you.
Awesome.
The next, we have Stacy Silveska. You can go ahead. Stacy Silveska. She's being recommended tonight for Director of Student Services, Master's degree Educational Administration from University of Phoenix, Bachelor's of Science degree in Kinesiology from East Texas Baptist University, 19 years in education, comes to us from Leander ISD, has served there as a middle school assistant principal, lead principal, and also as a high school associate principal. I'm really excited about her. Thank you.
Well, welcome aboard. We're glad you're here.
And next, we have Lance Jordy. Lance is being recommended tonight as the coordinator of DAEP, working with Sandy Garrett over there. Master's degree in education from Lamar University of Beaumont, a bachelor's of science degree in biology from UMHB, 10 years of experience. All of those years have been at the high school, and we appreciate his work teaching there at the high school. Special ed and science certification, so we look forward to working with Lance.
Well, again, welcome, and I know this is probably just a little ahead of time because we haven't voted, but we're so excited you're here, so welcome.
And then lastly, it's not on the list. It's a non-contract position for us, but would like to, it's his first meeting here tonight, Andrew Forrester for Director of Transportation. Andrew is in his 20th year in transportation, has 16 years from Plano ISD, and 4 years doing some stock transportation with Durham School Services, bus leases, and those types of things. So we are excited about him and what he's going to offer up for transportation.
Well, welcome aboard. We're excited for everyone. We're going to go ahead and vote now. How about that? We're going to take that quick picture and then we'll vote. Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve as recommended by the administration. I have a motion by Dr. Montgomery. Is there a second? Have a second by Mr. Ty Taggart. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. That passes unanimously. And Mr. Todd is still up again, and we get to talk about some really fun stuff on this one.
So we're excited about tonight. I shared with you the plan, the compensation plan for 2019-20. So we are asking for your approval of that plan as presented earlier, with the total cost of $4,838,417, including increases across the board and health plan contribution increase, as well as the substitutes increases that we talked about as well.
That's awesome. Is there any discussion? No? Okay, well, we are going to go ahead and entertain a motion, but before we do, let me just say it's with sheer pleasure that we're about to take action on this for our staff. We love and appreciate the staff here at BISD. We love this community. I'd also like to note that BISD has been very competitive as far as salaries go for a number of years, at least the last decade, and we're thankful for the opportunity to give the staff higher increases this year. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve as recommended. That's going to be a motion by Mr. Taggart. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Jeff Norwood. All approve of the motion, please raise your hand. That passes unanimously. Congratulations, everybody. That's awesome. Thank you, Todd. Appreciate that. And so we're talking about more monies. The next item on our agenda is to talk about the superintendent's salary. I move that we increase the superintendent's salary to 4%, setting her annual salary to $223,600. Is there a motion to approve? Got a motion by Mr. Norwood. Is there a second? By Ms. Lee. All in favor, please raise your hand. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item on our agenda, we've got Dr. Love Smith. She will talk to us about our 2018-2019 preliminary STAR data.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We are here tonight to talk about the preliminary data that we have received from the state. As you can imagine, we are getting all of that in. We don't quite have all of the data. We expect final data to be here by the second week in August. But what we wanted to do tonight is to share with you first at the highest level what data we have received, and we're sharing this in relation to the state and the state's performance. As you can imagine, also, I would like to just remind everyone, as we're receiving this data, our administrators that are behind me have been using it and starting to dissect our areas of both strengths and weakness, and we will have all of those areas presented in our district and campus plans next month. Also, I'm going to begin this presentation and share with you what data we've received, and then Ms. Dean is going to come back and she is going to share this data in relation to a preliminary A through F rating for the district. With that being said, we'll start with our reading. And so we're excited in terms of our reading because in our reading, we met or exceeded the state averages in reading at all levels of performance. So tonight we'll be presenting data on the approaches, which is you pass the STAR assessment, the meets, you're performing at grade level, and the masters, you're performing at the highest level. And we met that in all areas for 3rd through 8th grade. I would like to point out in this data some highlights. If you'll note that we received a 10-point gain in our 5th grade scores and our 8th grade scores, over 10 points at the approaches level in comparison to the state. It's also important to note that, and what we're extremely proud of, is when you look at that mastery level and you look in the district column, you're seeing columns of over 1/3 of our students that are performing at the highest level. And so we are very, very proud of those students. Next, we have our math scores. In math, we performed higher than the state in grades 3, 4, and 5 at all 3 levels, approaches, meets, and masters. In addition, we are proud that we had significant gains at the 4th grade level at all 3 levels and in our 5th grade approaching. And again, approaching determines the number of students that are passing the assessment. On this chart, you may notice that there's a concern at 7th grade. Let me explain that. At the 7th grade is the only grade level in which there are no advanced math students taking the test. Our advanced 7th graders are actually taking the 8th grade test. In 7th grade, we offer a pre-AP combined curriculum of 7th and 8th grade that allows our students to meet the state expectations of 8th grade mastery in order to take algebra in the 8th grade level. So it's a little bit skewed in terms of who's actually taking that test, although it continues to be a priority for us that we support our on-level students and achieve high results.
Deanna, sorry, one
Absolutely.
quick question.
Yes.
So, and I understand that because my own kids did it, that they didn't take the 7th grade, they took the advanced.
Right.
But since they're taking the 8th grade test, do
Yes.
they get counted in the 8th grade numbers?
They do get counted in the 8th grade numbers.
Okay.
And then the 8th grade highest performing students are counted in the Algebra 1 end of course numbers. And so there's one grade level where there's no advanced students represented, and that's in 7th grade.
Quick question.
Yes.
So what BISD does in allowing students to do this, is it uncommon across the state to allow the 7th graders to be advanced like that and take a different test?
It is not uncommon. We're following the state requirements that were set out, and that was in like 2015-16. I will tell you that not all districts are following those state requirements, and so they're still testing students differently than we are. We worked with TA to make that decision early on. It was a tough one because we knew what would happen with our 7th grade scores, but the requirement in order to take algebra in the 8th grade, the student must show an 8th grade mastery. The only way to possibly avoid that is have them take a credit by exam. That's an additional test, and it's at a cost to kids. And so we are having them, and then there's still some complications with that. When we work with TA, they recommended this option.
I want to say this is, it's important to your kids that want to be National Merit Scholars and our top kids to be able to advance in the curriculum. And so this is something we want to do. Definitely a priority for us.
Absolutely. When the scores are calculated overall to get like our rating, this does not have any negative impact. The only time it has a negative impact is just when you're looking at the scores by grade level. But the way the formulas all calculate and the way everybody takes the test, there's no overall negative impact. It's just, it shows up when we're looking by grade level.
Can students take an advanced level at all grade levels, or just middle school, or is it elementary also? In other words, if you're in 3rd grade, can you take the 4th grade level, and so on?
No, you can only take the test for the curriculum in which you're taught. If you are a 3rd grader sitting in a 4th grade math class, you could, but we don't have that. We condense the curriculum in 7th grade to cover both 7th and 8th grade TEKS in order to get them into algebra. And that's just for a state requirement. We had students taking 7th grade algebra prior to that state requirement coming out, and we had to change that just because we couldn't condense the curriculum any tighter and meet the rules of the state. And most districts had to stop doing that as well. Any other questions on that? Yes, ma'am.
When you're looking at the 7th grade data, are these kids being tracked across time? So are these kids also having trouble then passing their EOCs in high school if they're this low in 7th grade?
The short answer to that is no. No, they're not having trouble. And that's because when I show you your Algebra 1 scores and ultimate passing rate, it's very high. It's 95 to 96% passing rate. And that's the test that's required for the state. So we don't, I mean, they catch up and pass.
7th grade curriculum is a jump from 6th grade.
Absolutely.
So you see more algebra pickup in 7th grade content and the student expectations. And so that's why you see a little bit of a lower score there. And that's pretty common with you move kind of from that elementary to the secondary math concepts.
Absolutely. Okay. Next we have our writing. Our writing scores continue to pretty much just mirror the state's. We did see consistent improvement in writing in 4th grade at the district level, but overall, they're about the same as what the state is doing. It's important, I believe, to note that with the current legislation that's been passed, this test is going away, and writing will be embedded within the reading test. And so right now, it's been an isolated test for just 4th and 7th grade, and it will now be embedded in reading 3rd through 8th grade. Science has exceeded state averages in science for all levels of performance, approaches, meets, and masters for grades 5 and 8. You can see some pretty significant discrepancies between Belton's performance and the state. We're very proud of our science. About 3 years ago, we implemented STEM scopes, and we feel like we're seeing the results of that curriculum directly on our science results. This is a test that is only tested at 5th and 8th. However, we do teach science beginning in kindergarten, and so we believe that the strengthening of that program at the lower levels is contributing to seeing these gains. And then again, I would like to point out that mastery level here. You know, 1/3 of our students are performing at the highest level, and that's we're very proud of that. And then social studies, again, is an isolated within grades 3 through 8 to only be tested at 8th grade. Significant performance above the state at all 3 levels, with, again, 1/3 of our students at the mastery level. Next are our end of course exams. These are the exams students must pass in order to meet graduation requirements. What I would like to point out here is the increase in all subjects, with the exception of history, which stayed the same, above the state in terms of students at the approaches level. And what that does mean is a higher percentage of students passing the test for graduation purposes at the first time they test and not needing to retest. I'd also like to point out that we have some gains in English 1 and 2 that are higher than the state. We are proud of that, specifically because that is one of the hardest tests for our students to pass. And so we intentionally focus on our English 1 and 2. We'd still like to see those higher, but we're proud of where they came in compared to the state for this year. And then also with biology, some significant gaps there higher than the state. And then would fail to not mention nearly half of our U.S. history students are performing at the highest level. And so that we're very proud of that. So the state has sends us all this data, and with that, they start to formulate district ratings and campus ratings. As you will recall, last year was the first time that the state chose to take all of these ratings and to assign them a grade level on an A through F system. The district was a B. The campuses did not receive ratings for last year. The system measures 3 areas: student achievement, school progress, and closing the gaps. This year, for the first time, the state will assign the campuses a letter grade rating. We will receive officially those ratings about the second week in August, and they'll go public. So tonight, what we'd want to do is, as you may recall, last year, Vicki Dean spent 5 to 6 weeks thoroughly going through the A through F system and explaining it in detail. Mm-hmm. And tonight, she's going to do a summary of that learning because we want to just kind of remind everyone where we're at prior to those letter grades coming. So I'm going to turn that portion over to Vicki.
Welcome back.
Good evening, everybody. Y'all didn't think I would be back. I am. So what we thought we would do tonight is go back through and revisit all 3 domains, but this time we'll revisit all 3 domains, but utilizing preliminary district data. So the data that you're going to see is preliminary. It hasn't been put out by the state, but based on all the data that we've received so far, this is what the big picture of the district looks like. So as you recall, like Deanna said, we have 3 domains. The first domain is on student achievement, which looks at STAR and STAR Alt 2 data with reading and math, writing, science, and social studies, along with our EOCs. And then domain 2 has 2 parts, which is school progress. And then part 2 on domain 2 looks at relative performance and how does Belton perform relative to other districts that look like Belton. Of those, that counts as 70% of your overall accountability, whichever scores the higher of those 3 components. And then the last domain is closing the gaps, which counts as 30%. So we're going to go through each domain and kind of revisit what's all a part of that domain. So domain 1, when we look at the district level and our high schools, has 3 different components that are all in your domain 1 calculation. Part of that component is 40% is your STAR performance. So how are we performing at the approaches percent, the meets percent, the masters percent divided by 3. So all that data that Deanna just showed y'all on approaches, meets, and masters is 40% of domain 1. In addition to that, which was added last year, was a new component when we are looking at student achievement, is your college and career military readiness. How are kids performing? Are they ready for that next step in life? And that's 40% of your domain score. And we're going to go into some detail on what that looks like for Belton at this time later on in the presentation. And then 20% of domain 1 is your graduation rate. So what's our best rate in the past 3 years of our graduation class? So that's included in your score.
Vicki, could you stop and explain the approaches, meets, and masters in terms of who is in each category and how the categories are connected to each other?
Okay. Sure. So approaches is, did you pass the assessment? And then if I passed the test, did I also perform at that meets level? So did I perform at the next standard, which is another cutoff? Did I perform at the meets level at that grade level? Then I could also perform at that highest level, which is at the master's level, which is I'm performing above grade level. So a student who scores at the master's level is also counted in the meets percentage and at the approaches percentage. So a student who's performing at that highest level can count in three percentages for you. So that's, so looking at moving kids to perform at that next level is an important task. And so what we've been talking about in the last year and a half or so with principals have been talking to staff about is no one goes backwards. So when we say that, that means that everyone's performing at where they need to be and moving up. What does it need to take to get a student to perform at the meets level? What does it take to get a student to perform at that master's level?
And the system is valuing
the higher
more
levels.
Heavily the meets and the master's level students.
Yes. So you can have all your kids pass the test and a student and nobody getting meets or masters, and you can still be performing at a low performance according to the state. So with that, so what you have in front of you, it's kind of hard to see up there, is kind of a breakdown of the preliminary Belton data. So you can see there's 3 different components. So you have your STAR data that gives you the number of assessments, how many of those assessments performed at the approaches level, how many performed at the meets level, and at the master's level. And like we said before, that master's level number is also included in the meets number and in the approaches number. So then what the state does, it gives you, so there's math. So your STAR component score is just basic math calculation, taking the 3% and dividing it by 3. But then there's a chart that the state has released in the accountability manual that you take and you convert your component score to your scaled score. And your scale score is then what's equate it to your A through F. So 90s are A's, 80s are B's, and so forth. So that's how that goes. So you can see a 52 component score equates to an 83 STAR scaled score. So we had an 83 for STAR, for our CCMR, a 90, and then our graduation rate was at a 95. So there's some simple math, and then there's some math on just taking the chart, which was on the accountability manual. Yes, sir.
So if I'm reading the chart right, the 6-year graduation rate was 98.9, and our 4-year graduation rate was 96.6. Do y'all look into that to see how that number's changing, during those 2 years? That's probably kids, right?
We recover graduates, so if a student doesn't meet a traditional 4-year timeline, we continue to work. The high school does a tremendous job continuing to work with them to get them to become graduates.
Yeah.
And that's based on what year?
This was 2017 graduates.
Runs behind.
Yeah. So your STARS scores are from starting last June, December, and the spring. CCMR is based on 2018 graduates, and graduation rate is based on 2017 graduates. So this one domain has 3 different classes of students that we're looking at. So based on that, our overall domain score is an 88. So how did we get that? So we take our STAR scale score, which was an 83, multiply that times 40%. Take our CCMR scale score, which was a 90, multiply that times 40%. And then take the graduation rate, which our scale score was a 95, and you multiply that times 20. And add those 3 together, which equates to an 88. And last year for domain 1, we were an 83. So we saw an improvement from the previous school year. All right.
Okay.
So domain 1, that looks at our STAR performance on approaches, meets, and masters. Now let's talk about domain 2. So we have 2 components of domain 2. Okay, so everyone take a deep breath. So domain 2 looks at 2 components. The first part is looking at progress. Are we moving students? Are they growing from the previous year's performance? Are they, if they didn't pass the year before, are they passing now? Are they maintaining but still showing a year's growth? Are we keeping students who were at meets and moved to masters? So that's all what part A is looking at school progress. So you'll kind of see where it looks at progress or academic growth are kind of the 2 words that kind of get flipped around back and forth. So if you look at that next chart, the programs that we're currently using kind of give the campuses data in 2 different ways. So it just depends on what your fancy is on how you like to look at it. So if you look at, I like looking at the chart that's on the right-hand side, where you can see all the students that are in green are students that maintained and showed the year's growth from the previous year. And so if you're looking at that, we had 65% of our students that had academic growth, which equates to a 69, okay? So that's part A, just looking at growth. And it only looks at reading and math, because those are the only 2 subjects that we can measure from one year to the previous year, so starting in 4th grade, and then 8th grade math to Algebra 1, and English 1 to English 2 is where we have school progress for growth. So then the second part of domain 2 looks at relative performance. So how is Belton performing relative to other districts that look like Belton ISD? And so on that component, our relative performance scale score is an 85. And it's a fancy calculation that the statisticians have come up with from the accountability manual. So overall, for domain 2, we are an 85. So the better of those 2, part A or part B, which is part B, our relative performance. And last year, Belton was a 79 in school progress. So we've improved from an 85 to a 79.
Great news.
Okay.
That's awesome.
So then lastly is domain 3. Which looks at closing the gaps. That's what it's called. It's the ESSA part, the federal requirements, that when we talk about looking at how many of our students are performing at that meets and masters level in reading and math. It looks at growth for our elementary and middle schools. At the district level and the high school level, it looks at the federal graduation rate based on all sub-pops. And then our English proficiency, so that's where the TELPAS scores come in. And then lastly, it looks at student achievement based on all sub-pops, or based on CCMR. So for the district level, we're held accountable for CCMR. And then everything's weighted differently, as you can see, 50 to 10%, depending on what that category is. So what is closing the gap? So it's looking at how we're performing on our ethnic breakdown, our special ed students, continuously enrolled, our mobile students. Those are two separated categories. That's a new target, that's a new group. Let me correct myself. And then looks at our EL students, and then also economically disadvantaged. So there's a lot of different components of, and each of those have a different achievement target that we're reaching. And then all of that is then combined to an overall domain score based on that. So that beautiful chart, as you can see, is has all the breakdown of how we're performing in reading and math for meets and masters. And so it looks at the different target levels. If we met that target, it's green. If we didn't meet that target, it's red. And then we had, for example, for the academic achievement status, so meets and masters, there were 28 areas that we were held accountable for, and we met 18 out of the 28. The district, even though you see the data, we're not held accountable. It's not included in our calculation. We're held accountable, but it's not included in our calculations, the growth status. The graduation rate, this is the federal graduation rate where all your sub-pops need to be at 90%. And then we're held accountable at the very, that's calculated into our domain 3 is that student quality for CCMR. So I want to highlight that because that's a nice thing. So we're held accountable at total of 10 different areas, and we met all 10 of those for CCMR.
Good deal.
So our closing the gaps domain score was a 77, which then equates to an 85 on the STAR scale score. And last year, the district was at an 82 for domain 3. So we saw an improvement in domain 3 also. So, based on looking at what is our overall score, so looking at student achievement, we're at 88. At school progress, we're at 85. And closing the gaps, we were at 85. And so based on that, it takes the higher, which one's better, domain 1 or domain 2. So since 88 is better than 85, it uses the 88 scale score, multiply that times 70%, gives you the 61.6, and then uses 30% of our domain 3, which is an 85, and then our total overall score is an 87. So, you might say, okay, well, Vicki, how, did you do all of this by hand? The answer is no and yes. So I double-check my things by doing some things by hand, but we use a couple of different tools that are provided. And so one of them is this report that you see. Another analytical tool that TA has put out. At first, you had to log in to be able to access this tool, but recently, in the last less than a week ago, they released this tool that's also on the A through F resource page at TA. And so this analytical tool, you can pull up the district. It will give you what the 2018 values were. It automatically populates your economically disadvantaged numbers based on your PEMS data that's submitted back in the fall. And then you can input the values that you've calculated. So could be human error if you're not inputting correctly. And so you're putting that in, and then you can hit the button and hit recalculate new values, And that's how you can, this analytical tool can give you kind of a nice little visual, so a one-page visual versus the other tool that kind of gives you, you can see what you had the year before, which is nice about this tool that TA's produced. Okay, so with that, so let's talk about CCMR, because I know it's kind of one of those things of what is CCMR? We talk about it, and there are so many components of CCMR. So what you have is last year's graduates. So all this data is based on the 2018 graduates. And so we had 798 graduates. And of those 798 graduates, 488 of those students could receive a CCMR point. So a student can receive a point in multiple areas, but we only get a point. That's it. So if you earn a point, the state's kind of done looking at you in that regard. So one of the things I won't go and bore you by what are all those things, but one of the things I do want to point out is under the Texas Success Initiative criteria, there's multiple ways that you can meet that criteria, but you have to meet it in reading and math. So if you meet the criteria on the TSI in reading, and you meet the criteria on the cut score on the SAT on the math side, then it will give you that point. But you can't just meet, if you meet it on the math side, but you don't meet it on the reading side, we don't get a half a point for you. It's all or nothing kind of thing. So you can kind of see a breakdown of that. So you might say, well, Vicki, why do we the earn credit for college prep courses? There's a 0 there. It's a course that with the accountability new system, it's a course that has been included in this, it's been in the course catalog, but we've never really had students who are taking that course. And so, and we have to offer that course with in agreement with Temple College too. So it's not just a course that we can just say, hey, we're going to offer this, but we have to be working with Temple College to offer that course. So we have students that took this course this past year that will show up in the 2019 accountability, and then we have students who are enrolled in it for this next coming year also. So any questions about CCMR? You can kind of, so we've had, even though when you look at this, on the scale score side, when you go back to domain 1, a 61% is an A on the scale score. But of course, a 61% is definitely not something that we would say, oh yeah, this is great, we're an A and we're done. There's still definitely areas of improvement, and you'll be able to see that when you look at the district improvement plan and the campus plans in August, and where we're targeting this area, because it's looking at our advanced students, looking at students getting them ready for college, and then also for career. So looking at multiple avenues of improving this area.
Including taking the SAT during the school day?
Yes.
And that is one of the new components of House Bill 3, that the state will pay for some testing there.
Yes.
And so we'll be hoping and looking to take advantage of that. Could you speak to what happens with students who take a college prep course when they leave us? Those students who earned credit there when they go to Temple, or if they were to go on to Temple College?
I don't want to speak unclearly. Let me let Dr. Love-Smith.
So we are required with the college prep course to have an agreement, or a local agreement with our college, Temple College, and students that take that course and then pass the exam for that course will be able to start in a course at Temple College without remediation. And so it's really specific to students that are starting in a junior college. We've done some significant work there. So this data still reflects when CCMR criteria was new. And it was happening, we were being told what was going to happen without being able to put the interventions in play at the level we'd like. For this next year, we've significantly increased, because what it's not just about putting kids in that course, but it's also about educating parents on the why of that course. So if for years students have taken pre-calculus, and all of a sudden you're trying to convince them and their parents that they need to take a college prep course in lieu of pre-calculus, they don't understand. And they don't necessarily maybe even agree, because they still want to do what they've always done and what's been a tradition. And so it's been a lot of education on the part of the high school to kind of rework that knowledge with parents and help kids. And it really is going to be targeted at students who take the TSI. So this year, actually last spring, students took the TSI for their junior year. And if they did not pass the TSI assessment, which shows college readiness, then we are encouraging that for their senior year, they are in college prep for English 4 or college prep for math, which would be in lieu of pre-cal. And it's individually based on each student.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So next, a question was asked, so what is the financial impact of CCMR? And so we pulled some data on this, and the data that's reflected on this chart is more of what is the test fee in order to receive, to take the ACT or the SAT, which Dr. Concannon pointed out we're offering that school day for next year. So the district's covering that cost. TSI, which is to show if you're college ready, is also covered by the district. And then looking at how much AP exams are, your average cost of dual credit, the range of that, your industry-based certifications, earning an associate's degree, and so forth. This does not include our FTEs or any of those other additional costs reflected into CCMR. All right, so to summarize everything that we have covered so far, so I wanted to show you I pointed out every time, so domain 1, we were at an 88, which is a B, equates to a B. We went from an 83 the year before to an 88. And then domain 2, we're an 85. The district's at an 85. And we improved from a 79 the year before. And then domain 3, we're an 85, which were an 82 last year. So overall, preliminary data, just to remind y'all of that, is an 87. So basically, it comes out to be a B, where the year before we were an 83. So next month, we'll be bringing to you, like Deanna said, data, the final accountability data for the district and for all the campuses at the next board meeting, and also along with the district and campus improvement plans. And so you'll see within those what our strengths and weaknesses are, and the areas that need to be targeted or continued based on the data that the principals have been looking at since all their preliminary data came out. So they've been using that data along with some reports that they have access to work on those plans. And so those will come to y'all in August, along with what the final accountability is. So we'll be sharing all of that information with you in August. So in the meantime, principals have been, we've been doing the same thing as we've been doing with y'all, is let's go back and review, what does domain 1 mean? What does domain 2 mean? What does domain 3 mean? And breaking down those different components. And where can you have the most leverage in the data to make improvements in your school. At the same time, reminding ourselves that there are faces tied to all these numbers. And so sometimes you have to remind yourself that the 85 equates to, there's over 11,000 students in our district. And so that's really what's important. So, so one of the things, you can see the state has done a nice job in the last year trying to make sure that the information they're sharing with stakeholders, parents, and us educators, and trying to, what are some different ways that they can get that information out there that makes it easy and simple to understand. And so this is one of the things that we have shared with our administrators to kind of understand that. So in any of y'all, if you have students that are in the district, you've gotten the Sky Alert that tells you can go and see your students' scores. And on the parent portal, you can see different videos that explains the breakdown of your child's score and how that equates to the different components. All right.
Okay, well, thank you, Vicki, for that overview and refresher. Does any board member have any?
Yeah. All right, I'm always the one for this. Can we get back to 232? That's the overall CCMR student achievement table.
This one?
Yeah, so is all of this graduating seniors? Is that what this is, or?
Yeah, this is all the 2018 graduating seniors.
Okay. And so if we look at the CTE coherent sequence coursework, right, second up from the bottom, the 252.
Yes.
Right, so that's 31% of the 798 students. And so, really good. Is that really good? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, it feels low to me, but I'm not close enough to it, right? And so, you know, one of the things I've got interest in for maybe future conversation, right, is how can we push that CTE number higher, right? And do we have any limitations? You know, is it limitations on student interest? Is it limitations on our facilities because we can, you know, so we can't add more programs, right? What limitations do we have there to kind of push that CTE further and further than that 270 or 252?
I hate to interrupt you.
No, you know, go ahead.
So the 252 is the number of students after, if they don't get a point in any other area, then they look at a child. So this 252 is only the leftovers is not the right word, but it's the students that they haven't gotten a score with TSI, they haven't gotten a score with dual credit. So it's not a representation of the overall component.
Okay, I got you.
If that makes sense.
But we hear you, right?
Yeah.
Focusing on CTE and certifications and a sequence of courses that lead to a skill, right?
Right.
To a job. And
I think there's also a positive funding impact. Like the more students we can get going through CTE, we actually see additional funding for that. So, okay.
In House Bill 3.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, this is, you know, I talked about the theme and the graduate, and so the question that I keep asking that I want to talk to our administrators about is what are we building in Belton ISD? What do we want for our kids? And how does this state accountability system tie into what we want for our kids? And so you know, what are we measuring really, and what do we want to measure in terms of success for our students? And I think this is a snapshot of exactly what it was designed to measure, and does it measure everything that's important to a child?
Right.
And so that's my struggle with A through F, and I think we want to do a better job of focusing on the data, and leveraging the points that we can and the ones that are important to us. So if we determine CTE, coherent sequence, is something that we believe is important, that's where we want to put our emphasis. But I want to keep asking what matters. What matters and what are we trying to build for our students, and then find the focus area for our students.
But there was an increase from 83 to 87, correct?
There was.
Right, so can you pinpoint what action the district took to cause an increase in those numbers? I mean, what happened that caused the improvement? I mean, that's good news. So I don't know if that's something that you would answer, Dr. Concanon, or?
Yeah, they know how to answer.
Okay. No, I mean, I don't know who to
answer,
direct the
but
question to,
I'll
yeah.
let them go. It's very strategic.
Right, yeah. We, there were several things that we put into place this past year that were strategic, cleaning up processes when we're looking at CCMR, making sure that kids are coded correctly, looking at how many students are getting that CTE certification, their industry certification. So really some more very specific, targeted, and with CCMR being a new thing for all of us. A lot of education being done at the secondary level, from not only administrators but counselors to our diagnosticians, everyone who's from sitting in the ARD to the classroom teacher. And so we had to do some real targeted training and looking and really tracking and looking at students. So at the high school level, when you're looking at the CCMR, you can imagine we had a spreadsheet that had 798 students, and where were they receiving those points, and who were we missing, and making sure not to get a CCMR point, but to make sure that we're meeting their needs, to make sure that are you college and career ready, and where can we get you to be college and career ready? Is it on the academic side or on the industry side?
I would also add to that, this is a very complex system to calculate. And I saw several of you laughing as we were going through. It's just like one score to this score to a scaled score. This system makes it harder to pinpoint a single area. It's important to focus on all areas. So every little move that you make can have a positive impact. We know for next year we've increased our AP students taking tests. If they perform well, that's going to impact our CTE certifications, impact ensuring our special education students are on the right graduation plan and that we're getting credit and coding them correctly. It's all those little moves. I also, as I was presenting our scores, I continued to highlight our mastery level and our administrators focusing and making a real shift, and teachers making a real shift in student performance, and that every student must maintain or improve their level. In the last system that we've had for years, you were scored based on students passing a test. And in this system, you, like Vicki alluded to earlier, every student in a building could only pass a test, and the school would still be an F. That's not enough. You have to get students to meet, and you really have to get them at that mastery level. So when we're seeing a third of our students at mastery level, that's critical. And so I think that attention with every kid is what's continuing to show improvement in our system. It's all those things.
I think it can be pretty volatile as well, because you can get over the line in masters perhaps this year, maybe next year you might not. And so you don't get the credit for that student, yet they're a high-performing student in the system, and you've lost some credit, some ground in this A through F system. Or you have a student who comes behind. They come from a family, from a economically disadvantaged situation. They come to school without language, and they struggle to catch up. And they might be behind for a while. They might make it by high school. But in A through F, may not get the credit you want to get at the time that they're evaluated in the system. And so I think you have to keep it in perspective. And of course, the goal is to improve instruction. So what we want to do this next year is to really do a better job of analyzing and focusing on those student expectations and to make sure that our instruction is aligned, and we're providing students with what they need to be successful, and pushing them to be the best that they can be, and hoping that works in the system. So it's a real challenge.
Well, what I'm seeing here is that your staff is being proactive and not reactive.
Yes.
To these numbers that we're looking at,
Yeah.
which is enlightening for me.
Yeah, I'd like to agree with that. I sat through a couple sessions at the SLI. This thing drives me crazy. I don't even need it. I sat through a couple things at the
SLI, and those experts talked about what y'all are saying. I mean, y'all could teach those sessions. So the strategy, it makes me feel comfortable that our district, we really have a good grip of these strategies. We're adapting to a very complicated system, and in just 1 year, those 4 points were huge. What y'all were able to do with the dissemination of all the information and all the stuff. So I feel good sitting up here after sitting through those sessions, and we got a grip on that. So y'all are doing great.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, but I want to point out that the district ratings have CCMR data in them, and your high school ratings will have CCMR data in them, but your middle schools and your elementaries will not. And so you're going to see a difference in your school ratings that don't have CCMR versus those that do. And we have our challenges under A through F, and we'll speak to those next month as we work through campus ratings. And so we've been deep diving into this and trying to align the work for next year for continual improvement. But this is a challenging system.
Because campus ratings is a new thing this year, correct?
This will be the first
Right.
year that campuses are rated, and that will come out on August the 15th. And so what I believe is that we could do a better job of internalizing the system and understanding it, being that it's the first year, and really trying to figure out where our leverage points are so that we can get better. Fundamentally, I think it's not a great system. And I think a system that assumes that kids come to school learning at the same rate, at the same time, is not fair to kids that come behind. And so you'll see that it will be more of a challenge for schools that have a higher percentage of economically disadvantaged students, especially if they don't have the CCMR factor in there and it's straight STAR data. And if the campuses are smaller, there's also another disadvantage because your denominator is lower. Does that mean we can't improve? No. That means we've got some work, we'll have some work to do in some of our campuses. And so all of that to say, we want to do well under the system. We want to keep it in perspective with our kids, and we want to make sure we're doing the right work for our children. At the fundamentally right work for kids. And reading and writing and math are good things to focus on. But a system that gives you more credit at the highest levels may not be fair to all kids into the system.
And to me, it's a heartbreak in some ways, and stigmatizing to children that are my heart when it comes to teaching and education. They're the ones who need us the most, and they're the ones whose teachers are working the hardest. I mean, like, every day they're coming in there and pouring their lives into those kids to try to get them up to speed and up to grade level. And so I don't want to see them stigmatized for something that they're struggling every day to overcome and having to work so hard to do it. But I do want to compliment our teachers who do work in very challenging situations because I know how hard it is, but I'm also very grateful to you geniuses because I need the, the A through F data for dummies version. But you guys, thank you so much for being proactive and really knowing what you're doing. It's so comforting to know we've got people who are really working behind the scenes and doing a great job.
Okay, any further discussion? Go ahead, Chris.
So when we look at the district improvement plans, I mean, I assume we're going to look at this two different ways, right? There's the holistic child, forget about the ratings, right? Throw them out the door because the kids are what's important, right? So we'll look at it from that perspective. But then I'm assuming we're also going to look at it pretty specifically to how do we impact these numbers? Because as much as we hate the game, it is the game, right? And so we do need to, so I don't know, I'd kind of like to see some of that framed in, here's some specific things.
We've got that in there.
Okay.
So we have a whole section in there, and we have some very specific plans to work on A through F this next year.
Gotcha.
Both in core academic areas and in CCMR. So you'll see that very clearly. We do want to spend more time looking at data, though, and that should come across in the plan and as a team focusing on numbers and data analysis, and I think that's an area we can improve in.
Awesome. We certainly appreciate your presentation. The only thing that I'm going to add to this is that, it's an amazing thing that you all are doing, trying to figure out where we land. I also think it's important to note that although we've improved in all three of those domains, the celebration is not there. The celebration is, what are we going to do to continue to improve? And that's where the focus is. So thank you all, the entire BISD team, for trying to figure it out and help us get there.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is review and discuss the athletics update by Mike Morgan. Good evening, Mike Morgan.
It's my privilege to get to do this presentation one more time. And it's an honor to get to stand before you today and talk about what we considered a very successful 2018-19 athletic year. I recently saw some polling, national polling from high school athletic administrators and head coaches, and where they kind of rated what they felt like the essentials were to have a successful program. And the top rated item on that list was administrative support. And I just wanted to, the first thing today is just say, we would like to thank you, the board, for the support that you not only give athletics, but all of our programs, extracurricular and otherwise. Thankful for our administration at central level and at campus level and the support that they give all of our programs, and particularly in this case, athletics. And then also we've got an incredible staff of coaches and teachers that are great at building relationships with kids. They're professionals. They're trying to do everything they can to get an edge and to teach the lessons that we want to teach through athletics. And then we have great kids and great parents. And I think you'll see as we go through this and kind of list the accomplishments and the priorities, and we try to make this data-driven as much as we can to kind of see where we're at in comparison with other schools in our district and with other areas in the past. And, we've got a lot of really good people and really good kids and parents. But I want to thank you as a board for the support that you not only give athletics, but all of our programs. I think that's critical. Let's see. Annually, we get together with our athletic administrative staff and head coaches and our middle school coordinators, and we review these vision, mission statements and objectives and core values, and we're pretty firm that this is still what we wish to accomplish. The core values is kind of from a time that a kid enters sixth grade pre-athletics until they graduate or finish out their varsity seasons. These are the things we really want to be known for. So regardless of what the team motto may be or what the activity may be, we want our kids to learn accountability. We want them to act with character. We want them to be disciplined. We want them to be tough, and we want them to learn how to compete and not be afraid to compete. So those are the things that, we review those annually, and we still believe these are the things we want to build our program upon. This is one of my favorite slides of the presentation. because I think if you look at any program, the health of that program can be seen clearly in the participation numbers. And these are enrollment numbers. They're preliminary enrollment numbers for our 2019-20 school year. But as of about a month ago, we had 1,155 kids enrolled in athletics, which is roughly a third of the high school enrollment. So 1 out of every 3 kids is in an athletic program. And I would want to say, though, these numbers, they reflect enrollment numbers only. They don't reflect multi-sport athletes. So a kid can only be on one role at a time. So if a kid plays football and basketball, they're only going to show up on this list once. If you'll notice, a sport like boys track isn't even on this list at all because we don't have a boys track period, although when springtime gets here, we'll have over 100 boys running boys track. So this 1155 does not represent multi-sport kids. These are 1,155 different kids that are on an athletic role. And it doesn't not only includes athletes, but it also includes managers and trainers and filmers and support kids too that find a valuable place to be involved and to belong on an athletic program, even though they may not be on the field or on the court. I did think it was important to include New Tech participation as well. I know that y'all often get asked questions about that, and that way y'all have kind of the most current data. It's pretty much in line with what we've seen historically, maybe down a few percentage points. Historically, New Tech has had about a 20% participation rate, and I think this 80 number comes in at about 15 or 16%. So we're right in line with where we have been historically for New Tech. Just like with the A through F and everything else, coaches like to keep score, and we keep a district composite team score of team results. I was really impressed this year that 14 of our 19 programs finished in the top 2. We had eight district championships and 6 runner-up finishes. 7 of our 9 eligible team playoff teams made the playoffs, and we had 0 teams in the bottom 2 in the district. So that's something we're really proud of. We made some substantial improvements in some sports. Some sports have been continuously at the top of their game for several years now, but 8 district championships is a solid year for an athletic program, and 14 in the top 2 is a solid year. So we're very proud of all the hard work at the varsity level that went into that. Middle school results, you can see some sports were a little stronger than others. One thing I would like to say, though, is in our middle school competition, we have 3 middle schools. Temple has 3 middle schools. Coppers Cove has 2 middle schools, and then the other school in our league with us is Midway, who runs 1 middle school. So where our kids, we have about 200 kids per grade level. They have over 600 kids. So sometimes it's the numbers don't match up real well in some of the team sports. But by the time we get to 9th grade, it kind of evens out because we have so many more kids that are getting to participate in the middle school level. But you can take a look at the middle school. One of our initiatives for years, and we keep finding new ways to try to promote this, is our academic programs. Coach Cope kind of heads up our academic programs for the athletic department, and we've really tried to instill competitiveness among our programs. 2 years ago, we started keeping track of our AB honor roll, and a lot of our sports, you can see, we only put the top 5 in this report, but we had our top 5 programs all had 60% or better of kids that are on AB honor roll, and that's for the year. That's not just one term or one grading period. And then we had sports, the top 5 sports all had a failure rate for the year of under 4%. So that's really impressive. We also give out an award at the end of the school year too for the athletic program that was the most improved academically as well. We try to get a lot of information out to our parents on recruiting and collegiate options. And so we put out a presentation online, and we have an open forum for BHS recruiting orientation parent meeting. Also, every 9 weeks for all athletics and support staff, we recognize every kid in our athletic program that's on the AB honor roll, and I think that is probably from the 3rd or 4th term, probably the 3rd term last year. And then this year we also started having a end-of-year celebration, a cookout for all of our academic all-state kids, and I'll go into that a little bit more later in the presentation. Another initiative that we took this year was to have a student athlete of the week. We recognize this student
through their sport and also with an article on our athletic website. And the way that we comprise this list is we take our seniors, and this year we decided that we had 27 weeks that we were going to recognize these kids, so we just took our top 27 seniors in GPA and class rank, and those were our student athletes of the week. And so we're very proud. It's a very diverse group. There's kids from multiple sports. There's 2 or 3 kids on here that are support staff kids that were filmers and trainers and managers. And so we want to recognize all members of our athletic program in that regard. But very proud of this group, and they're all going to go on. Some of these are our superintendent scholars. I see one guy on here that's going to be a Harvard attendee next fall. So, we're proud of all those guys and their contributions to our program. Community service is another initiative that we decided 2 years ago that we really needed to get better at. And we've made we increased over 1,000 hours in our volunteer hours from last year to this year with over 13 more projects. But we completed 59 projects, 3,602 total volunteer hours, which averaged out to our whole program of 3.65 hours per student. You can see that baseball and girls basketball were our top 2, both averaging around 12 hours of community service per kid this past year. And then we had a few that were all sports combined, so there was almost 300 hours where we had kids from multiple sports at the same event. And then we just included some cool pictures. This ranges everything from community service, from community pickups, to visiting retirement communities, to helping with things like Project Apple Tree, and I believe we had a group that helped box up and package all the packages last year, working at various other, going to speak to elementary kids and things like that. So we're very happy about the community service that our coaches and our kids have devoted to try to make Belton a better place. A couple of slides here of our district championship teams. Very proud of all of these guys. Our by-district champions, we had 3 softball and both of our soccer programs. And then our area and regional quarterfinal champions was our softball team. They made it in a very, very great season and were eliminated in the quarterfinals, or in the regional finals, in very close games against a team that eventually lost in the state championship game. One thing is, you see some of the visuals on this, we made a commitment as a staff a little over 2 years ago that we were going to phase out uniforms that didn't just have red and white at Belton High School. And I think you're starting to see now at the varsity level, I think all of our sports have been through one cycle of this. And we really did a lot of soul searching on that, and a lot of buy-in, and we're really proud of the fact that whenever you see a Belton team compete at the varsity level, they're going to be wearing red and white only. We had several state qualifiers last year as strong powerlifting seasons, as we always have. 5 girls, which Kaylee was as a state medalist, 2 boys powerlifters at the state meet, and then Dallas Hankemer was 1 stroke off of being tied for the gold medal and was a bronze medalist in the 6A golf state meet. And then multiple all-state athletes this year. I think we had 14 total. It helps when you have such an outstanding softball season. We had 8 softballers that were at least honorable mention all-state, and then, like I say, 2 individual state medalists. 3 of these athletes will qualify for the Hall of Honor, or for the Belton Wall of Honor, which will be Denver Holman and Paige Nunez and Avery Drake and Kaylee Robinson. So actually 4 of these will end up being on the Wall of Honor, 3 in next year's class, and then Paige is just a sophomore, so she'll have to wait 3 years before she'll be inducted into the Wall of Honor. We did have 62 total all-state, academic all-state kids. Just so you know, on academic all-state, they have to be a senior, and there's a certain matrix criteria that goes into that kind of balances out GPA and class rank, college entrance scores, and citizenship components as well. So we had 62 different athletes, seniors, qualify for academic all-state, and then some of these you can see they qualified in more than 1 sport. So we're very proud of that, and we honored them at the end of the year. Our Wall of Honor inductees, this year we had 4. Bethany Edwards for softball, Garrison Vaughn for football, Noah Henry for swimming, and Craig Bauer was inducted into the inaugural class of the Texas State Athletic Trainers Association Hall of Honor. So that was a great honor to get to put those guys in, and we'll have another group of 4, it looks like, next year as well. One thing, website. We started our website 5 years ago, and it's grown into one of the better ways for us to assimilate information out to the community and to our parents. You can see by the data that we're averaging a little over 81,000 page views per month, and that's up 24,000 from the previous year. Our highest monthly views were in February, where we had over 120,000 views that month. We're consistently ranking in the top 10 in the nation for all of the Varsity News Network sites, and we're consistently in the top 3 in Texas views. But the main thing is that we like this platform. It's content driven. Our coaches have really bought into getting the information on the website. And then every time we publish something on the website, it automatically goes to our Twitter and Facebook too. So we're going across multiple platforms and really trying to get information out to the community. And we do this with itineraries, results, photo albums, and then also announcements if a game gets canceled, if something happens, or ticket prices for playoffs or playoff sites and things like that. We really try to encourage people to use the Belton Tiger website to get that information, and our coaches have done a great job of keeping that information current and keeping it updated. College commitments. This was an incredible year. We had 33 kids commit to go on and play sports collegiately next year. And I thought what was great about that is 21 of those athletes were female. And what great opportunities for them, not only to continue their academic studies, but also their athletic endeavors as well. Estimated one-year scholarship impact is $407,166, and that's just the athletic impact of this. It wouldn't count any academic scholarships. The potential four-year scholarship impact is over $1,600,000. And then we broke down the level of competition of these kids, the level of participation. 5 D1 athletes, which in most of these cases, or in some of these cases, were in full ride sports. And then we're getting some more kids going in the NAIA route, which is exciting because that's been an avenue that we haven't had a lot of kids go in the past, but it's a great opportunity for these guys to go a lot of times out of state and participate and expand their horizons and still get to participate and compete as well. And then we finish up. This is kind of a list of priorities that we as an athletic administrative staff and our head coaches kind of go through each year. It's some new initiatives, some things that we want to continue to do well, some of our requirements from UIL and other entities to make sure that we're on top of things, and then just some other projects that we're looking to in the future. But like I say, it's an honor to get to speak to you guys about this tonight. We're very proud of the year we had, and we look forward to a lot of hard work and trying to do a lot of good things with our athletic programs this upcoming season. So I'd answer any questions at this time.
Chris? I felt it.
Awesome year. I just have two questions. On 242, there's the failure rate percentage. What does that mean? Somehow I'm not following that.
The number of kids who failed a course during the year.
Gotcha.
So for girls golf, it's at 0. Of their whole program, they didn't have one failure in one class the whole year.
Okay.
So.
And then on the community service front, I mean, that's amazing. And I would love to get the detail behind that, right, to help, again, arm us with the stories that, we can help share. In the spirit of design, create, build, right, and building character. And
can't measure that on the A through F?
Well, no, you can't measure that on A through F, right? But building character, right? I want to make sure we're telling those stories, right? And maybe I'm just missing them somewhere along the line, but I don't know that we take enough victory laps over some of the stuff that these kids are doing.
And the kids love it. I mean, they go and they do things that they normally wouldn't do, and they come back with usually a better experience than whoever they're working with and helping most times.
Yeah, I was going to say the media does an amazing job at covering those stories. I saw some of our football players over at the McLean Children's Hospital with some children. So I think we're there.
Okay, good.
Yeah, good.
I think you asked that question last year.
Just making sure.
I will make sure we give you a breakdown.
Subscribe.
I just want to say that I guess 2 years ago when I first got on the board, Dr. Kincannon made a very impactful decision. She's made a lot of great impactful decisions with a lot of administrative things, but I've told a lot of people that my favorite move was when you made Mike the athletic director, and I want to congratulate you. I get to hang around up there a lot. I come around a lot, and I see the hard work you know, you were my son's position coach his senior year, so we got to know you in and out and got to yell at my son a lot. So appreciated that. But I just want to tell you what an outstanding job you've done.
Thank you.
And so happy he's staying here with the district, but he's done such an amazing job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that update. Next item on our agenda, Dr. Love Smith. She's going to talk to us about revisions to EIC local first reading.
Yes, I'm back. As you may recall, last spring we did a complete redesign of our EIC local, and that policy specifically addresses how we will identify students in ranking order for graduation purposes. And so, as you may recall, with that revision, we had a transition period. And so it's my plan to annually revise this until we have removed all of the transition criteria, and we are just with the one new policy that was implemented last year with our freshmen. Therefore, tonight's first reading for this revision will strike or remove any reference to the criteria for the class of 2019. While we're revising this, also this year, the state made some changes with specific courses where they decided that although the course might only be offered in a single class period, the state would grant 2 credits for that class. And on that list of courses, there's only one that we are currently impacted by, and that is AP Computer Science A, where students will now receive both a math and a foreign language credit, but they'll still be taking the course within a single class period. And so just to be clear in our policy, we did want to note that for class rank purposes, that course will count with one time or one credit, the same as any other AP course that's taught over a single class period. That does not change the number of credits the student will receive for it, and it doesn't change what goes on the transcript. It's just for class rank purposes. And so those 2 changes are proposed tonight. This is the first reading. Next month it will be up again for a second reading and for your approval. Any questions on that?
I don't know, maybe.
Okay.
For that computer science course, right, what's the rationale behind it getting 2 credits? I mean, I'm fine with actually how we're counting it, but what's the issue with, why does it get 2 credits?
So the state made that decision, and I believe it's because they changed what courses would meet the foreign language criteria, and they began to recognize computer language as one of those options. So now you could take Spanish. We offer Spanish. We offer German. You could use 2 years of computer science to meet your foreign language requirement, but they didn't want to remove that from the recognition that it also requires advanced math skills. And so they're giving students 2 credits in that area. We did have 8 students last year in that course, and none of them used it for their foreign language requirement. It may be a new trend we see, but many of our students get their foreign language before they take those advanced computer science courses.
So pure conjecture, I would say probably because we want to produce more computer science majors, and so,
Yeah.
and they only have so much room in their schedules to take so many courses, and so by giving them that opportunity to earn something else at the same time, replacing that value on computer science.
Okay.
That's a guess. Yep.
If I had questions in this section that we were reviewing that weren't necessarily related to this change, can I ask those later? I'll just ask them one-on-one.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, anybody else? No? Thank you, Dr. Love Smith.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is to consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding naming a delegate and an alternate. In September, there will be a convention, a TASB convention. This assembly is held in conjunction with the TASB convention, just for convenience. The delegate speaker will be Ross Ramsey, and they'll also decide on TASB leadership. during this assembly. At this time, I would entertain a motion to nominate a delegate and alternate. Do we have any nominations? Yes, sir, Mr. Tick. Okay, as a delegate, is there, you want to put that together with the alternate as well? Thank you, I appreciate that. So we have a motion to nominate Chris Floor as the delegate, and you're also nominating Sue Jordan as the alternate. Okay, that's a second by Mr. Manuel. Okay, Alcocer, and all in favor, please raise your hand. That passes unanimously. Okay, that was pretty painless. Okay, the next item is issues or concerns for future agenda or administrative reports. Chris, do you have anything for the, no? Okay. Anybody? Rosie, Jeff? No. Janet, Manuel, nothing? Okay. Sure. Okay.
Growing up a Texas high school football player, this is the Bible. Coolest thing every year that comes out, and I've been chomping at the bit every time I'm at HEB to buy one, but we get given one, and it's really cool. Thank y'all for doing that for us every year. It's a neat deal. Thank y'all.
Okay. Well, you're right. That's pretty awesome. Okay, so our future events, it's already been stated, so I may not give you exact details, but I do have the list. But we know that on July 29th at 5 here in this auditorium, we'll have a budget workshop meeting at 5. July 31st, there's the New Tech Freshman Download from 1:30 to 3:30. August 1st, new teacher orientation breakfast at Charter Oak Elementary. I believe there's 120 new teachers.
We have almost 200 new employees we're recognizing.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Correct, Todd? Yes.
Wonderful. August 3rd, Back to School with God, begins at 9 a.m. at Harris Community Center. That's always a wonderful event. I always get to read to the kids, lots of fun. They crowd my lap like none other. That's lots of fun. August 12th, we have Project Apple Tree Distribution Day from 9 to 4:30. First Baptist, workers need to arrive at 8:15. And then also August 12th, convocations at 1 o'clock. Our speaker is Steve Uzel.
Mm-hmm.
I said that right, yes. Thank you. August 13th, we have BHS Parent Night for freshman parents only from 6 to 8. Anything else? Okay. And then August 15th, BHS Freshmen Walk the Halls with the Parents from 9 to 12, and wonderful. And August 19th, first day of school. And it's also our next board meeting here at 5 o'clock. Also, it's the BHS Freshman Focus at BHS 9. And then, as we've talked about earlier, there's various open houses and events on a flyer that has been presented. Do y'all have anything further? Nothing? We stand adjourned at 7:46.